Hey, welcome back to Evil's Comics. I'm Evil Mike, or Mike if you prefer, and I have another review for you. This one's a little late, not too late, maybe a couple weeks back, but a big one, and I've been waiting to do this. This is from Vault Comics. This is Barbaric, Axe to Grind, issue number 1. Man, have I been waiting for this, and it didn't disappoint. This probably would have been my read of the week, or maybe read of the month. I don't know. It was so dope, but we'll get there. First up, we got written by Michael Moreci, art by Nathan Gooden, colors by Addison and letters by Jim Campbell. I cannot talk highly enough about this series. I've loved it all the way through. This one, it looks like we're going backwards in time a little bit. Not too far, but it's kind of like, I don't know if this takes place like right after where the series ended, because it does have characters. Because Axe wasn't a part of the whole original story. Axe starts off with issues 1, 2, and 3 in Barbaric, but we did get from the side story, the one-shot, that Axe wasn't always with Owen, the Barbarian. So I'm not exactly sure where this is set. It does have Soren, it does have Axe, and it does have Owen. We do run into an old acquaintance named Steel, which they kind of jump us into. The art is amazing in this book. The paneling, the coloring, I mean, this whole team right here, the story was fantastic. It basically starts off with Owen, Axe, Steel, and the wizardess, I don't know what they do call her a witch, but Soren. But basically they're in the middle of this craziness. Owen is kind of mad at Steel at the moment. Steel turns out that he's a vampire. He has like quested, you know, Owen to help him like free himself from this vampire lord. Owen is kind of mad because he was told that it was just some vampires, and it was like a bunch of giant, like it was like a bunch of giant vampires or something like that, or a giant horde of vampires, but he literally meant like they had giant vampires. They basically kind of, you know, wreak havoc with Soren and Owen, you know, kind of doing most of the damage. We do find out during the whole fight that Axe does not like undead creatures, specifically vampires, that he gets not really, I mean, he's drunk, but it's more like of a sick type of drunk where he's not as helpful as he could be. And how can that be possible, that an axe that can talk, how could it not be useful? But they show you in certain scenes, like right here where Owen slashes the axe in, they show the axe kind of just, you know, at first it was just blurred and red and whatever, but he's literally stuck in the guy, and we find out he's stuck in the guy's spine, and Owen cannot pull out Axe. And the axe kind of stays because it's the blood that he's been drinking. It's not good blood. There are a lot of badass scenes where, you know, Soren or Owen ends up taking out these vampires and stuff. Steel's doing damage too, but we find out pretty soon that he is very limited on what he can do, and for good reason. It does get to the scene where like the major vampire, it's this guy right here, the vampire lord that they've been trying to get rid of. He eventually captures the witch, thinking he's got the upper hand because he, you know, makes sure she can't talk. But as we see right here, she just snaps her fingers and all these blades appear behind her. We did find out from the first 3 issues that she has a proficiency with blades and magic. But we do find out really quickly that Steel, this was the main mission, to kill this vampire lord, to free himself of his, you know, the vampire that made him, and supposedly he's been controlling him for like 80 years or something like that. But we do find out that there's a spell cast on from the demon lord to Steel where he can't physically harm the vampire lord. Steel then kind of asks Owen to help out, Axe and Owen to help out to kill the guy, which he does. He kind of complains a little bit, stating that he has to do his job, and eventually he does, cutting off his head. They do quickly find out, real quick, in a funny type of way, that that even though he killed his vampire lord, he thought he was going to become a human again, and it did not happen. He kept his vampires, but Soren and Owen, they kind of point out that even though it didn't turn out the way he wanted to, he's still not under anybody's control. There's a couple different scenes where they go to a bar to celebrate, and we do see that is a major theme in this world, that somebody is always trying to enslave or control someone else. In this bar, in the bar scene, we do see Axe trying to recover from the nasty blood that he was drinking, and while this is going on, like we do find out that Owen starts questioning the reason that the giants were even at this like occasion. And Steele kind of mentions, like, he's like, oh, you didn't know? It's because Gladius is back. We do get this like little back scene after Owen repeatedly mentions that he doesn't want to talk about Gladius, but we do get this back scene over here that kind of explains a little bit about Gladius, Steele, and Owen and their previous adventures. It gets to the point where basically Owen explains that he thought he knew what real evil was until he met Gladius, and once he met Gladius, it was like a whole different story. He really found out what true evil was. And him and Steele, they tried to defeat Gladius or something like that, and they mentioned that he was in some kind of eversleep, so it doesn't sound like they defeated him, maybe tricked him, and maybe like used some kind of spell or something like that. But now he is awoken, and that's why the giants have moved from their location to the location they're at now. It's because they're scared of Gladius. Owen kind of mentions that he didn't want to deal with this, that it's not his problem, and Steele and Axe kind of mention that it is. The Soren she wants to know more about Gladius because she doesn't know anything about him. That's kind of where we get the backstory. And she tries to get it out of Axe, even though he is kind of drunk, sick. Axe kind of mentions that he wasn't there for that journey. It was before his time. In this scene right here, we do see that somebody else is trying to own somebody else, and it just happens to be the right moment that Owen needs. He ends up just walking over to the guy, cremating him, because instantly he is determined as a bad guy. Remember, Owen can only attack or kill said evil, beings, bad beings, stuff like that. They can't be like half-half, where they're like kind of bad, kind of good. No, they got to be true evil, true bad, and that's the curse that he's under right now. This guy does fit the bill, as you can see, and Owen relieves a lot of like stress and stuff, because just the mention of this guy Gladius has put him in this weird state or whatever. They jump to maybe the next previous days, and we're already on the adventure set out to go find Gladius. We do meet a new character named Crumb, who is the ship's captain. And he tells Owen that he's really happy that he was selected for this journey, because he's usually like a fisherman or something like that, or he takes fishermen out to their said places or whatever. So he is happy to go on an adventure with Owen and Axe and Steele and Scorn. They do show a scene right here where and it has a name. I can't remember the name without looking at it, but we do see that Steele gets his sword back. It's a sword that's been slated with him. Remember, he is a vampire, and it said that he was out of control for like more than 80 years. During that time, he had a said weapon that he was famous with, and supposedly, like, he found it. Oh, and the name is Ganelon, something like that. Ganelon, Ganelon. But that's the sword's name, and we do hear that that Steele used the sword to best many different creatures and badasses and stuff like that. But as this is going on, the ship starts to rumble. Of course, we got a situation going on. It turns out that it's a humpback whale, but it's also being hunted by something else, a huge, massive, like squid-looking thing that instantly rips the whale in half in bloody fashion. And they quickly find out that it's not just like a squid or an octopus. It's a full-blown kraken, and they all get to getting ready, battle stances. We see that the new character Crumb, he's like, hey, this is my ship, y'all get behind me, I'll take care of this thing, like he's some kind of badass. And just like the book set up, he's not. I mean, all of a sudden these tentacles land on him, and they see the suckers suck him off. They literally like suck all the skin off of him. It's so weird, but so badass at the same time. Instantly after that, like Scorn and Owen, they start attacking the Kraken, and Steele is just kind of standing there. Eventually, Owen starts screaming at him, come on, you know, use your badass sword. And in the mouth of the Kraken, Steel cannot do anything. Eventually the ship is crumbled and Owen tells everybody to, you know, jump overboard. They eventually regroup on a piece of the ship, you know, after the Kraken has left and determined that, you know, he ate what was there or whatever. There's a little story between Scorn and Owen where she's like, go find out what happened. And eventually Owen does walk over to, you know, Steel, and she's basically, you know, he's basically like, hey man, what happened? You know, why? I mean, you're a badass, and now you got the sword, and blah blah blah. And he kind of explains that now that he's killed his vampire lord, even though he was under the control, that was all like that person's doing, and now he doesn't know who he is, if he's a warrior or, I mean, he's still a vampire, but he's not really like, he's kind of questioning, you know, should I be killing? Should I be a warrior? Should I be into art or poetry? You know, stuff like that. But now that he is a free man, he kind of states that even though he is free from that certain person, he's still, he doesn't feel free, kind of thing. We do see at the very end that all this went down, and they show like a crystal ball. We find out that it's Gladius and like, I guess, some witch henchman that's, you know, viewing them in a crystal ball, mentioning that it's about fucking time that Owen and Steel and they're getting to where he is. We do see a picture of the next issue, which looks fantastic. I can't say enough about this book. That's where it leaves us off with. This book was fantastic. The story, the art. The only negative I can say about this book was I wasn't a big fan of the cover, but after reading the book, it fits. It's Steel, and it looks like Gladius in the background. Man, Michael, if you end up watching this, Michael Moreci, I mean, you and Gooden, man, you are killing it. Just keep on going, giving us more. I can't wait for the second issue. Hey guys, that's my review. If you have read this, or if you have not, you know, let me know down below. If you have not, I highly suggest you checking out the first 3 issues. There was also, like I said, a one-shot that came out recently. I highly suggest, if you're into medieval, you know, that kind of stuff, this is definitely the book for you. But hey, that's my review. I'm trying to knock out a bunch of these as fast as I can when I have this free time and quiet time. I thank all y'all for watching, for commenting, for everything that y'all do, spending this time with me. I know there's a lot of other things that you could be doing. But one last thing, please like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. It feeds this guy right here. I will check y'all on the flip side. Have a great Saturday, or whatever day you end up watching this on. Bah!